Today, I want to talk to you about a concept that at first sounds cold, maybe even a little manipulative. Act like you don't care and they'll care more. But it's not really about pretending or playing games. It's about value yourself, worth, your energy, and the subtle power of detachment. We've all been there in relationships, work, or friendships where we tried too hard, gave too much, or chased too desperately. And what happens? People pull away. They take you for granted. Why? Because in human nature, we often equate availability with less value. When something or someone is always there, we stop appreciating it. But when we shift our energy inward, focus on ourselves, and stop overreaching, suddenly we become magnetic. Acting like you don't care doesn't mean being heartless. It means not handing over your power. It's about emotional discipline. When you respect your own worth and stop seeking validation, you naturally raise your value in the eyes of others. In our fast-paced world of instant messaging, constant updates, and non-stop availability, mystery has become rare and therefore powerful. When you're always available, always responding instantly, always putting yourself in front of others, you become predictable. Predictability kills curiosity. When people feel like they've already figured you out, there's no longer anything left to explore. That's when interest starts to fade. But when you step back, when you create space and silence, you plant a question in someone's mind. What are they thinking? What are they up to? That's the beginning of intrigue. Mystery isn't about being fake or manipulative. It's about preserving your own energy and understanding that people value what they have to wonder about. When someone feels like they don't completely know you, or when you don't reveal every emotion, every move, and every thought, they naturally become more attentive. They start to fill in the blanks, and in doing so, they stay mentally engaged. The mind craves puzzles. The moment you stop being a puzzle, you stop being a priority. Consider this: when someone tells you every detail of their life, constantly vents, or never stops talking about themselves, how do you feel? Over time, it becomes overwhelming, even draining. But someone who speaks with intention, who chooses their words carefully, and doesn't always reveal their full hand, holds attention effortlessly. That restraint communicates strength. It says, I don't need to prove myself. You'll learn about me in time if you earn it. Detachment in this context doesn't mean becoming a wall of ice. It simply means creating intentional space. It's about not flooding others with your presence or emotions. That space, that restraint, forces others to lean in. It causes them to become more curious about who you are and what you think. You stop being a loud broadcast and become a quiet frequency, and those who are truly interested will tune in more carefully. There's also a psychological reason why mystery is so effective. Humans are wired to pursue what they can't immediately understand or access. When we're given everything at once, our brains move on quickly in search of the next stimulus. But when something remains unresolved or unanswered, we keep coming back to it. This is why cliffhangers work in storytelling, and it's why people stay interested in others who don't always show their entire emotional deck. The unknown keeps us coming back. Acting with detachment, then, becomes a powerful form of self-protection and self-respect. You're not withholding to manipulate, you're simply maintaining your own emotional boundaries. When you don't feel the need to explain yourself constantly, or make others like you through overexposure, you're telling the world, I'm whole on my own. That independence is deeply attractive. People can sense it, even if they don't consciously realize why they're drawn to it. What makes detachment even more powerful is that it contrasts so sharply with what most people do. Most people overshare, they overcommit, they overcommunicate, thinking that more access equals more connection. But true connection often comes from subtlety, from pauses, glances, and the things that are felt but not spoken. When you embody that subtlety, people begin to lean in. They work to understand you, rather than assume they already do. Ultimately, detachment creates mystery because it introduces the idea that you are not easily possessed, you are not emotionally dependent, you are not always accessible, and that, paradoxically, makes others want to access you even more. In a world where attention is constantly chased, be the one who doesn't chase, be the one who walks with calm, quiet confidence. That's the kind of presence people remember and pursue. At its core, neediness is rooted in fear, fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. It's the emotional posture of someone trying to earn validation from the outside because they haven't fully found it within themselves. The moment someone senses that you need their approval, their time, or their attention to feel okay, a shift happens. It's not always conscious, but they start to pull back. Why? Because emotional neediness feels heavy. It creates pressure to respond, to reassure, to fix, and most people instinctively avoid that weight. Neediness is often expressed in small, subtle behaviors, constant texting to check in, over-explaining your intentions, seeking reassurance after every interaction, or adjusting who you are just to keep someone happy. These actions, while often coming from a good place, signal to others that you're not standing on solid ground. And when someone feels you're relying on them for your emotional stability, it pushes them into a role they never asked to play. That imbalance drains attraction and respect. Confidence, on the other hand, is magnetic. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it. Confident people don't chase, they attract. They're rooted in their own self, worth, so they don't need constant affirmation from others to feel valued. That internal security allows them to move through the world with ease, and that ease is what draws people in. Where neediness says, "Please choose me so I can feel okay," confidence says, "I'm okay either way, but you'd be lucky to have me." The irony is that most people try to get others to care more by giving more access, more compliments, more attention. But what actually sparks connection is when someone feels that you're already fulfilled, already whole. That's when they start to wonder what's different about you, why you're not seeking their validation, why you're not following the same script as everyone else, and that curiosity often leads to deeper interest. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing that you're enough, regardless of who stays or leaves. That kind of mindset changes everything. You stop overthinking texts. You stop trying to read between the lines. You stop contorting yourself into what you think others want. And instead, you start showing up as your true self, unshaken and unapologetic. What many don't realize is that confidence is often quiet. It doesn't show off. It doesn't need to be loud or flashy. It's found in calm eye contact, in the pause before responding, in not rushing to fill silences. Confident people know that their value doesn't diminish if someone fails to see it. They don't force connections, they let them flow, and that relaxed energy signals something rare. It tells others, "I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm simply here, and you can take it or leave it." Neediness, by contrast, often creates urgency, a fear of loss, a sense that time is running out. That energy makes people feel cornered, even if you don't mean it that way. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. But when you release that grip, when you stop needing the connection to go a certain way, things unfold more naturally. That's when relationships begin to breathe and grow. Ultimately, what repels or attracts people isn't just what you say, it's the energy behind it. Are you coming from a place of wholeness or from lack? Are you offering your presence as a gift or begging for someone else to complete you? Confidence isn't about perfection, it's about presence. And when you replace neediness with grounded, unshakable self-worth, everything changes. People don't just see you differently, they feel you differently. Scarcity is a principle rooted deeply in human psychology. We're hardwired to want what we can't easily have. The more accessible or abundant something is, the less we tend to value it, not because it isn't good, but because its constant availability makes it feel ordinary. When something is rare, limited, or hard to come by, our minds automatically assign it greater worth. The same principle applies to people and attention. If you're always available, always saying yes, always giving your time and energy without boundaries, you can unintentionally lower your perceived value in the eyes of others. People often make the mistake of thinking that being constantly present for someone will strengthen the relationship. And while kindness and consistency are important, over-availability can lead to emotional fatigue. When others know they can get your attention whenever they want, your presence stops being special, it becomes expected. Contrast that with someone who protects their time, who doesn't always respond instantly, and who operates on their own terms. That behavior signals that their time is valuable, which in turn makes others treat it with more respect. Think of luxury brands. They don't flood the market with endless inventory. They don't go on sale every weekend. Instead, they operate on the idea of controlled scarcity, and that strategy elevates their desirability. People will wait in line, pay more, and go to great lengths to obtain something rare. In relationships, when you don't always offer unlimited access to yourself, when you let silence speak and let time pass without over-explaining, you tap into that same psychological effect. You become someone people don't just interact with casually, you become someone they pursue. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to get, not out of game playing, but because your life is full. Your schedule is meaningful. Your attention is focused. That reality naturally makes others appreciate the moments they do get with you, rather than take them for granted. The more they realize you're not always there at their convenience, the more intentional they become with how they interact with you. It forces them to step up, to match your energy, and to treat your presence as something earned rather than assumed. Scarcity also creates contrast. If you're someone who gives generously, who loves deeply, and who shows up when it matters, but you also know how to pull back, recharge, and live independently, that balance is powerful. It means that when you do give your time or affection, it lands harder. It's not just another gesture. It's something meaningful, because you don't give it to everyone, and you don't give it all the time. That contrast is what makes people sit up and pay attention. There's another side to this idea, too. Scarcity not only increases your value to others, but it also protects your energy. When you stretch yourself too thin, when you're constantly on call, emotionally, you burn out. You lose clarity. You stop acting from strength and start reacting from depletion. But when you create distance, when you allow yourself moments of detachment, you preserve your mental and emotional well-being. And from that place of fullness, you show up more powerfully, more attractively, because you're not operating from need, but from choice. What makes this principle even more profound is that it flips a common narrative. Society often teaches us to give, to serve, to be endlessly available, especially if we want people to like or love us. But true value isn't demonstrated by overgiving, it's demonstrated by knowing when not to give. When you show that you don't need to be everywhere, that your presence isn't guaranteed, and that you don't chase people, instinctively lean in. You create a space where they begin to earn your attention, and that effort deepens the connection. Ultimately, scarcity doesn't mean shutting yourself off from the world. It means knowing the worth of your time, your peace, and your presence, and treating those things like the rare commodities they truly are. When you start behaving like you're not always available, not always ready to please, not always on stand, for someone else's convenience, you elevate yourself in their mind. You stop being just another option and start becoming the one they don't want to lose. Every interaction you have is a lesson. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly teaching others how to treat you by what you tolerate, how you respond, and where you draw your boundaries. People don't just instinctively know your worth, they learn it by observing how you value yourself. If you let disrespect slide, if you overextend yourself for those who give little in return, or if you always show up even when they don't reciprocate, you're signaling that poor treatment is acceptable. And once people learn that lesson, it's difficult to unteach. Respect doesn't start with others, it starts with you. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak about yourself, and the standards you hold in your interactions set the tone for every relationship in your life. If you consistently prioritize others while abandoning your own needs, people will mirror that behavior and begin to treat your needs as secondary. On the other hand, if you hold firm in your values, decline what doesn't serve you, and communicate your limits clearly, people will begin to approach you with more consideration. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that being overly kind, endlessly forgiving, or always there will earn them love or loyalty, but what often happens is the opposite. Instead of being appreciated, they're taken for granted. When you never express hurt, never say no, and never demand better, people start assuming that you're unbothered, or worse, that you don't deserve better. Silence, in this case, isn't noble, it becomes an invitation for mistreatment. The truth is that people test boundaries whether they mean to or not. They push, they pull, they take what's given, and they notice when nothing is pushed back. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's simply human nature. But that's why it's crucial to be the gatekeeper of your own self-respect. If someone cancels plans repeatedly, and you keep saying it's okay, you teach them that your time is flexible. If someone speaks to you harshly, and you laugh it off, you teach them that your emotions are disposable. Every time you minimize your needs, you train them to do the same. Teaching people how to treat you doesn't require confrontation or aggression. It requires consistency. It means not rewarding bad behavior with your presence. It means calmly walking away when someone doesn't rise to your standard, not to punish them, but to protect your peace. It's in the decisions you make, not the lectures you give, that people learn what you will and will not accept. Respect is not begged, for it's commanded through action. It's also important to note that setting boundaries doesn't push the right people away, it filters out the wrong ones. Those who truly value you will adjust to your standards. They may be surprised at first, especially if you previously allowed too much, but over time they will either rise to meet your expectations or quietly exit your life. And either outcome is a win, because you're no longer bending to fit into spaces where you don't belong. You're standing tall in the space you've defined for yourself. Another element of this is consistency. You can't ask others to treat you with care and then treat yourself with neglect. If you don't speak kindly to yourself, if you let your life be ruled by chaos, or if you constantly seek validation, people will pick up on that. They respond more to how you treat yourself than to anything you say. When you act like someone who deserves respect by showing discipline, maintaining boundaries, and knowing your worth, others will naturally mirror that back to you. At the end of the day, your life becomes a reflection of the standards you enforce. You can't always control how others behave, but you can control what you allow. When you teach people that your time is valuable, your emotions are valid, and your presence is a privilege, not a given, they start to adjust. Not because you've demanded it, but because you've demonstrated it. And in doing so, you transform not only your relationships, but also your sense of self. In a world that constantly pushes us to seek approval, compare ourselves to others, and chase connection, it's easy to lose sight of the most important relationship we'll ever have, the one with ourselves. Focusing on yourself first isn't selfish, it's essential. When your life revolves around gaining someone else's attention or fitting into their expectations, you slowly begin to shrink. Your needs, your goals, and your identity take a back seat. But when you shift your energy inward toward growth, self-respect, and purpose, everything around you begins to align differently. People can sense when you're centered. They notice when you're fulfilled, when your happiness doesn't depend on anyone else's behavior, and when you're moving through life with direction and purpose. That kind of energy is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are chasing validation, affection, recognition, but someone who isn't chasing anyone is intriguing. They stand out. They're not emotionally desperate or overinvested in being liked, and that freedom is powerful. When you focus on yourself, you begin to operate from abundance, not lack. You start pouring into your own cup, building your health, your mind, your finances, your passions. You begin to glow differently, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're becoming whole. That wholeness changes the way people interact with you. Instead of trying to convince someone to like you, you're too busy creating a life that you like. And in doing so, you become a person that others naturally gravitate toward. One of the biggest lies we're told is that we have to earn someone else's affection before we can feel good about ourselves, that we have to be chosen to feel worthy, but the truth is, the most attractive quality you can develop is independence, the kind that says, I'm good with or without you. When you genuinely prioritize yourself, you stop looking for someone to fill your emotional gaps. You become your own source of validation, and ironically, that's when people start chasing you. This shift also helps protect you from toxic dynamics. When you're focused on yourself, you're less likely to tolerate mistreatment or settle for situations that drain you. Why? Because your standards rise. You're no longer willing to disrupt your peace for crumbs of attention, or stay in environments where you're not valued. You know what you bring to the table because you've invested in yourself, your growth, your boundaries, your purpose, and that awareness gives you the courage to walk away when something doesn't feel right. Another benefit of focusing on yourself first is clarity. When you're not consumed by someone else's behavior or constantly seeking connection, you can actually hear your own thoughts. You gain the space to reflect, to heal, to create. You're no longer distracted by drama or emotional chaos. You're not waiting for a text to determine your mood. Instead, you're grounded in your own world, and from that grounded place, you can make better decisions, form healthier relationships, and pursue goals that truly matter. It's important to understand that this focus isn't about building walls or becoming emotionally distant. It's about rooting yourself so deeply in self-respect that your life doesn't crumble when someone pulls away. You're not unfeeling, you're just stable, and that stability makes you a better friend, partner, and person, because when your cup is full, you can give without losing yourself, you can care without being consumed, and you can love without abandoning your own center. People respect those who respect themselves. When they see you investing in your own growth, staying in your lane, and living with purpose, they're forced to rise to your level or risk being left behind. You stop being someone who begs for inclusion and start being someone others hope to be included by. And all of that begins the moment you decide to place yourself, your peace, your passion, your power at the top of your own priority list. In our noisy world filled with constant chatter, notifications, and endless sharing, silence has become a rare and powerful tool. While it might seem counterintuitive, sometimes saying less or nothing at all communicates more than any words could. When you act like you don't care, by choosing silence or withholding immediate responses, you create a space that compels others to fill in the gaps. That silence invites curiosity, reflection, and often a deeper level of engagement. Silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's a form of communication. When you respond less frequently or delay your replies, it signals that your attention and energy are valuable. It shows that you're not desperate for validation or approval. This quiet distance prompts others to reassess their own behavior. They begin to wonder why you're not as available as before, and that very wondering pulls them closer emotionally, sometimes more than words ever could. Furthermore, silence can act as a mirror, reflecting back to others their own actions. If someone is used to your constant presence and suddenly experiences your quietness, they are forced to consider their role in the relationship. Are they giving enough? Are they respecting your boundaries? Silence encourages accountability, often leading others to step up and show more care, not because they're told to, but because they genuinely want to regain your attention. There's also a psychological principle behind silence's power. Humans are naturally uncomfortable with ambiguity. When you don't give immediate answers or explanations, you create ambiguity. This uncertainty sparks an emotional response. People start to wonder what's going on, what you're feeling, or whether they've done something wrong. That emotional investment encourages them to pay more attention, often making them more invested in the relationship. Silence also protects your emotional energy. Instead of rushing to fill every pause or defend every misunderstanding, you allow space for perspective. You avoid unnecessary conflicts or over-explanations that can drain your peace of mind. This restraint signals maturity and emotional intelligence. Others pick up on this calm confidence, which makes you appear more composed and self-assured, qualities that naturally attract respect and interest. In many ways, silence can be a subtle form of power. When you hold back from revealing everything, you maintain control over the narrative. You decide what is shared, when, and how much. This control prevents others from taking you for granted or assuming they know all your thoughts and feelings. By holding some things close, you remain a mystery, which keeps people intrigued and eager to learn more. Silence also allows your actions to speak louder than words. Instead of constantly explaining or justifying yourself, you let your behavior demonstrate your worth and intentions. People tend to trust what they see more than what they hear. When you act with calmness, confidence, and clear boundaries, your silence amplifies those messages. It communicates that you don't need to prove yourself verbally. Your presence and choices already say enough. Finally, silence creates space for self-reflection. When you pull back and quiet the noise around you, you get the chance to listen to your own needs, desires, and intuition. This internal clarity strengthens your sense of self and reduces the urge to seek external validation. It builds the kind of inner confidence that others sense deeply, making them naturally want to engage with you on a more meaningful level. Mystery is one of the oldest, most powerful forces in human attraction. It's what makes someone fascinating rather than predictable, exciting rather than ordinary. When you hold back certain details about yourself, whether intentionally or naturally, you create space for curiosity. People don't just want to know everything at once. They want to discover you gradually. That unfolding process keeps them engaged, interested, and wanting more. Mystery taps into our natural desire for exploration and discovery. When you reveal too much too soon, you risk losing that sense of intrigue. Oversharing can make you feel vulnerable, but it can also make others feel like there's nothing left to uncover. It's like watching a movie where the plot is fully revealed in the first 10 minutes. The rest becomes predictable and less engaging. By contrast, when you maintain some boundaries around your story, you invite others to invest effort into understanding you, and that effort often translates into deeper emotional connection. Mystery also creates emotional tension, which is a key ingredient in attraction. When people don't know exactly where they stand or what you're thinking, their brains work overtime trying to fill in the blanks. That tension can spark excitement and anticipation, making interactions feel more alive and dynamic. It's that pull, the magnetic force, that keeps people coming back, wondering and hoping for a glimpse behind the curtain. There's a balance to be struck, of course. Mystery doesn't mean playing games or being intentionally deceptive. It means being selective with what you share and when. It means trusting the process of gradual revelation rather than rushing to reveal your entire life story in one sitting. When you're comfortable being yourself but don't feel the need to spill every detail, you build a reputation for being someone who's layered, interesting, and worth the wait. Keeping a sense of mystery also empowers you. It puts you in control of your narrative. Instead of laying everything out for others to interpret and judge, you decide how much you want to show and what you want to keep private. This control can boost your confidence because you're not exposing yourself to unnecessary scrutiny or trying to fit into someone else's expectations. You're simply being selective and intentional. Mystery can also guard your emotional energy. By holding back certain aspects of yourself, you protect your vulnerability and avoid burnout from oversharing. You reserve your deeper self for moments and people that truly deserve it, rather than offering it indiscriminately. This preservation of self can make your connections more meaningful and less exhausting, because they're based on authentic discovery rather than surface-level exposure. On a social level, mystery can elevate your perceived value. People tend to respect those who don't reveal everything all at once. It signals depth, independence, and self-respect, qualities that naturally command attention and admiration. When you maintain mystery, you become someone who stands apart from the crowd rather than blending in. Others see you as unique, intriguing, and worth the effort it takes to know you. Finally, mystery is not just about what you don't say, it's also about how you carry yourself. Your body language, your tone of voice, the way you listen all contribute to an aura of mystery. A calm presence, subtle smiles, and thoughtful pauses invite curiosity without words. When you combine this quiet confidence with selective sharing, you create a magnetic presence that keeps people drawn to you without even trying. In conclusion, acting like you don't care isn't about playing games or being cold. It's about reclaiming your power, valuing yourself, and setting the tone for how others treat you. When you cultivate scarcity, teach people your worth, focus on your own growth, embrace silence, and hold on to a bit of mystery, you create a magnetic energy that naturally draws others in. You become someone who is not easily swayed by neediness or desperation, but someone who commands respect, attention, and genuine care. Remember, you don't have to chase or overextend yourself to be valued. Sometimes the most powerful way to inspire others to care more is to show them that you care about yourself first. By doing so, you not only elevate your relationships, but also build a foundation of self-respect and inner strength that will serve you in every area of life. So, next time you feel the urge to over-explain, over-apologize, or over-give, pause and ask yourself, what would happen if I simply acted like I don't care? The answer might surprise you, because when you stop chasing, you start attracting, and that's where real connection begins.